What is up, everyone? I am so excited for today's video because it is the first video I am sitting down and actually filming for the first time in I think almost 9 months. I did recently publish 2 other YouTube videos, but I had shot those when I was still pregnant and in the hospital. One of them was my birth vlog. So this is the first time I'm actually filming, and I have missed YouTube so much, but I honestly did need to take a bit of a break because I was like at the end of my pregnancy, and then I had a C-section, which is like major surgery, and for the last 6 months I've been super focused on just spending time with my baby, on healing, and just really having a lot of time away from the camera at home. I want to wrap up all of my pregnancy content. During my pregnancy, I listened to so many birth stories, so many podcasts, so many YouTube videos of just people kind of documenting and sharing their stories. So it's definitely something that I wanted to share with you all as well. I find it so fascinating to learn about other people's stories, no matter how difficult they may be. I love hearing how, you know, they rise above just as we did. Today we are getting into my 3rd trimester Q&A, and I'm going to be answering the questions that you all submitted. The first question is, how do you feel pregnancy symptoms wise? So in the 3rd trimester, I started to have some sciatica pain, and not necessarily pain, but more so discomfort. And I actually ended up going to a chiropractor, and she was able to work out some of the kinks that I was experiencing. Another thing is that my restless leg syndrome was like really bothering me, but just a lot of discomfort in those kind of ways, sleeping at night. I also had a lot of heartburn. I definitely remember having a lot of Braxton Hicks. Some people say that Braxton Hicks are sort of like practice contractions. My stomach would get super hard, just kind of stay contracted like that for a while. It honestly wasn't painful, and it didn't feel anything the way that it felt like I was in labor. Definitely felt it being really tight down there. So I was doing my best to stay hydrated, and my chiropractor actually suggested magnesium citrate to kind of help with that kind of thing. I was also always hungry. I feel like some people towards the end, they aren't as hungry because the baby's kind of squishing everything inside. But I feel like a common denominator throughout my entire pregnancy is that I just had an insatiable appetite. The second question is, how did you find out about hyperthyroidism? Is it common during pregnancy? They basically do like routine labs. Just checked my thyroid levels. There's like a bunch of different things they can check for, and some of my levels were high and some were kind of on the lower end, which was a signal for hyperthyroidism. So that's how we found out about it. And I feel like yes and no, it is common during pregnancy. If you're already prone to having something kind of underlying going on with your thyroid, then you're more likely to have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism during pregnancy, just because the baby is taking so much more of your immune system. I feel like it makes it harder for your body to kind of protect your thyroid. The next question is, have you ever had diabetes or protein in your urine? No, I personally haven't, but again, that is something common that they check for. For some people, they may be more susceptible to it than others, just like I was more susceptible to getting thyroid issues. But for me personally, no, I did not have any of that come up during my pregnancy. The next question is regarding weight gain, and they said, what is your weight gain until now? I started off pregnancy at 118, and I honestly don't even remember my exact weight. I believe I was 155. I know I got to 150, and I'm sure that I gained past 150, but I honestly don't remember like the very exact weight. I feel like it could be anywhere between 150 and 155, I would say. So my total weight gain, let's see, I have to do the math. It was like probably 30 something pounds. So let's say 150 minus 118, 32 pounds. At least 32 pounds is what I gained by my 3rd trimester and by the time I went into labor. Are you happy you went with a birth center over a hospital? I did have primarily midwifery care. They did do some kind of cross care with a hospital, like a traditional doctor, because there's just like certain things the birth center is not equipped with. But the majority of my care was with a birth center from, I believe, 9 weeks was my first appointment. I'm absolutely 100,000,000% happy that the majority of my care was with the birth center, because it was just so much more personable, so much more intimate. And even though I wasn't able to give birth at the birth center, it's actually illegal for midwives to catch a breech baby in California, so that's a little tidbit. I was open to a vaginal breech delivery, but they just aren't actually allowed to. So even though I had a C-section, and I didn't give birth at the birth center, they did still end up coming to my house, which is something that's common for midwifery care. When I was recovering postpartum, they did all of my postnatal appointments, which is something that doesn't really happen at hospitals. It's kind of like you give birth and they send you home, and then if nothing else arises before 6 weeks, then mama has her 6-week appointment at the hospital. I really needed that extra love and care postpartum because we did not have a lot of help, because I was not expecting surgery. It was just nice to kind of have someone to talk to and someone to help me a little bit with breastfeeding. Midwives are not lactation consultants, but you know, a lot of them are mothers themselves, and they see so many babies and so many new moms, so they definitely helped me a lot with the very beginning of my breastfeeding journey as well. Do you ever get scared that you won't be a good mom? And then in parentheses they put, "you will with a heart." Thank you, I appreciate it. I would say no. I've always wanted to be a mom, and I feel like it's just something that has called me my entire life. As a kid, I was like obsessed with playing house with my Barbies and my baby dolls. I would even pretend that they were pregnant. I was seriously obsessed with the idea of pregnancy and being a mom, and it's nothing that ever really scared me or brought me anxiety. I always felt like I would be a very nurturing mother, and of course, like every parent is gonna make mistakes, and you know, there's a lot of bumps in the road and things that can arise, but overall it's not really something that I had anxiety or stress about. But I will say that I feel like it is a common fear, especially depending on like the way you were raised, whether you feel like you had amazing parents and you just want to live up to that, or you had a rough childhood and you're just scared that you're not going to be able to give your child a certain love and attention. I feel like there's so many reasons why a person could be afraid of that. So I think it's a really common fear in general, and something that a lot of people can relate to, but it's personally not something that I was scared of. Have you had any embarrassing or TMI symptoms like lots of gas, farting during pregnancy? In general, in my pregnancy, I did have some constipation, but once I started taking the magnesium citrate, it actually did help me a lot with that, and it helped keep me regular. And I do have a plant-based diet, so I just tried to make sure that I was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables throughout the day, which really helped keep me regular for the majority of my pregnancy. I did have a few really stinky farts, if I'm being 100% real with you guys, but it's not something that would happen like all the time. It would just kind of happen like here and there, especially on days when I was constipated. And then something else that I experienced a lot was a lot of burping. I'm actually more of a burper than a farter, and I had some really, really big burps, especially when I was having really bad acid reflux in the last weeks of my pregnancy. So those are probably some of the most embarrassing ones. The last question for today is, overall, would you say that pregnancy is hard and scary? What is the most challenging part? I think in general, pregnancy can be stressful, it can be scary, it can be lonely. There are a lot of hardships that can come up during pregnancy. I didn't go into pregnancy with like fear and anxiety, but because of a lot of the health issues that came up, I had hyperthyroidism, we had a Velamentous cord insertion, and my baby was Breech. Like there was all these things that kept coming up. So I think that brought me a lot of fear and anxiety that I wasn't expecting. Things kept coming up back to back to back, and Mario and I felt like we just couldn't really catch a break, and that was something that was really hard for me. All that I wanted was to bring my baby into the world peacefully and because there was so much fear and anxiety regarding, you know, whether he was going to be born safely and healthily. It was just something that I really worried about. The most challenging part was remaining calm and just really keeping the faith that I was going to be okay and that the baby was going to be okay. I think one of the things I was most afraid about was the Velamentous cord insertion, because there's a lot of different issues that can come up with that. The baby can experience a growth restriction, and also when you're delivering the baby, the placenta can become detached a bit easier, which means mama can bleed out, not bleed out, but could experience hemorrhaging, or, you know, there's just like more of a risk associated with that. I wasn't as stressed out about the hyperthyroidism because I didn't really have symptoms aside from my blood tests. Something that ended up being really difficult was that the baby was breech. I fought tooth and nail to have a natural vaginal delivery, and we ended up with a C-section because we felt in the moment that was what was safest for the baby and I, considering he was presenting as a footling breech, and because of the Velamentous cord insertion. We actually waited for spontaneous labor. I wasn't induced or anything, and we like waited to see how we felt in the moment. We just didn't know, you know, how things were going to end. That wraps up all of the questions that I wanted to answer today for my third trimester Q&A, and I hope that you found the video insightful. I'm definitely looking forward to the next YouTube video. I'm going to be sharing a video answering some of your breastfeeding questions. So I've been exclusively breastfeeding for 6 months until recently my baby started eating some solids. If you have any questions that you want answered in that next YouTube video, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And yeah, that's all. I will talk to you guys again soon.